Imagine yourself on a road of life, where each choice creates new paths, and each step reflects what we keep in our hearts. Now, think about a decision that not only changes your trajectory, but also breaks the hearts of those who trusted you most. This is the story of Joao, a man who, blinded by superficiality and selfishness, abandoned Karen, his devoted wife, because she no longer met the aesthetic standards he desired. This story goes beyond betrayal and overcoming. It is a journey of rediscovering one's own value and learning that great challenges can bring the most precious lessons. Prepare to face the reality that every action has its consequences and that redemption, although possible, requires more than simply returning to where you started.
Oh, how I loved sitting on my porch at dusk, watching people come and go on our neighborhood's dirt street. Karen, grew up there, and every little part of that place told a part of my story. I remember when I was just a little girl, running around barefoot, with no worries. But now, things had changed a lot. Ever since I became a young woman, I noticed that people looked at me with a somewhat embarrassing frequency. Zika, son of SCU Manuel from the grocery store, was the first to bring me flowers, followed closely by Tiago, who always had a joke ready to try to make me laugh. But honestly, the attention that mattered most to me was the most discreet of all. Among the boys who came to see me, there was one, Joao, who, unlike the others, never said much. He just smiled shyly when our eyes met. And that smile, that smile was capable of brightening up even the cloudiest of days. Once, during the school's June festival, while everyone was dancing square dances, Joao approached me and offered me some sweet popcorn. "For the sweetest girl at the party," he said, with the air of someone who had been rehearsing the phrase all night. I couldn't help it. My heart raced. That night, under the colorful lanterns and starry sky, I felt something special about him that words couldn't describe. In those times, I began to realize that, perhaps, the charm I aroused in others was not just because of my smile or the swaying of my curls in the wind. There was something deeper, a connection that went beyond the surface, and Joao seemed to feel it as intensely as I did. It was strange to think that, of everyone who came to see me, the one who said the least was the one who said the most, at least to me. But as I pondered these things, a gentle breeze carried the smell of wet earth, heralding an imminent change. Joao, in turn, didn't know it yet, but he was about to become an even more significant part of my life. Yes, many wanted me, but deep down, I knew who really touched my heart. It was him, the boy who grew up with me, sharing dreams and ice cream, who now, without knowing it, was preparing to color the picture of my life once and for all.
If this story of overcoming and redemption has already captured your interest, imagine how many more await you. Don't miss a single moment of these transformative journeys. Subscribe to the channel now, activate the notification bell, and be part of our community that celebrates life's twists and turns and the lessons they teach us. Let's discover together the power of personal transformation and the wonders that each choice can reveal. Come on, your next great story starts here.
I've always been told that young hearts are impetuous and passionate, and mine was no exception. Joao was more than just a childhood friend. He was the dream I never knew I had until it came true. The truth is that I always saw it with different eyes, even when we were just children playing ball in the street. Joao's life was never easy. Growing up in a family with limited resources taught him the value of hard work and perseverance. His parents, people of fiber and sweat, dreamed of a better future for him and his sister. And Joao embraced these dreams as if they were his own, fighting every day to make them come true. When we started going out, we often met in the old neighborhood square, where we shared ice cream and dreams. He talked about opening a business, maybe a barber shop or a small repair shop. One day, Karen, we will have enough to not only dream, but also achieve, he said with a gleam of determination in his eyes. And I believed in him, not just because I loved him, but because I saw in him the same flame that burned inside me, the flame of hope and the desire to be more, to do more. Our connection was deep, anchored not just in feelings but in shared values and a mutual understanding that life could be something great if only we dared to achieve it. It was clear that our path would not be easy. The difficulties were many, and at times it seemed as if every step forward was followed by 2 steps back. But the strength that Joao gave me, and I gave him, was a testimony that true love not only survives adversity, but grows stronger through it. In our most intimate moments, when the world outside seemed too heavy, it was in the little things that we found our refuge. A look, a touch, a word whispered in the ear. And in these little things, our love grew, silent but strong, resilient to the storms of life. With Joao, each day was a promise of something new and wonderful. And as we walked side by side, I knew that no matter what came, our love would be our greatest triumph, our safe haven. Oh, how sweet it is to remember the days leading up to our decision to finally be together. Joao and I, 2 hearts that were already beating in unison without even realizing it. Our story, seen from the outside, had all the ingredients of a modern fairy tale, where the princess and the prince grow up in the same kingdom, share the same dirt streets, and dream under the same starry sky. Our families had known each other for years, sharing celebrations and difficulties, smiles and tears. It was a solid foundation, a web of relationships that only strengthened the idea that we were destined for each other. The Silvas and the Santos have always been one and the same, my mother used to say, with a knowing smile. And really, there was no lack of support. Our parents saw our love as a continuation of their own journey, a reflection of the community they cherished. Childhood friends and neighbors celebrated, saying they always knew we would end up together. It was as if the entire neighborhood participated in our union, each one adding a little of themselves to the fabric we wove together. But even in fairy tales, not everything is perfect. There were shadows in the corners of this bright screen, whispers of challenges that lurked behind us. We knew that not every day would be sunny, that there would be storms to face. Yet there was something irresistibly comforting about knowing that, no matter what, we wouldn't be alone on this journey. Our decision to start dating was celebrated with a barbecue in my backyard, with all our friends and family. The loud music, the laughter, and the toasts for our happiness echoed through the neighborhood, like a sign of a new chapter that was beginning. And in every tight hug, in every congratulation we received, we felt the strength of our commitment growing. It was more than just a relationship. It was the beginning of a promise, of a life that we chose to build together, despite any adversity that might arise. Yes, everything seemed perfect, a true fairy tale. But like all good stories, a twist was lurking, ready to test the strength of our love and the resilience of our dreams. Our wedding day arrived faster than I could have imagined. It seemed like yesterday that Joao and I decided to unite our lives, and now we were just a few steps away from making that promise in front of everyone we loved. The preparations were a true marathon, with Joao going out of his way to make sure everything was perfect. He took it upon himself to make sure the decor, food, and music were on point. I saw my beloved transform into a true warrior, facing each challenge with a smile on his face and unshakable determination. "I want this to be the best day of our lives," he repeated, and I knew he would do anything to keep that promise. The ceremony was held in our neighborhood church hall, a place full of memories for both of us. I walked down the aisle to a soft melody, my eyes fixed on his, which sparkled with emotion. When we arrived facing each other, we held our hands, shaking a little with anxiety, but firm in the certainty of our love. When we exchanged our vows, I felt a wave of emotion wash over me. Every word Joao said reverberated inside me, promises of love, loyalty, and support. And as I said yes, I felt as if the entire universe had conspired to bring us to that very moment, a moment of pure happiness and togetherness. The party that followed was a spectacle of joy. We dance, laugh, and celebrate with our family and friends until the stars give way to the sun. It was a magical night where every hug, every laugh, every dance was a testament to the love we shared. But as the party continued, I couldn't help but feel a mix of joy and nervousness for what was to come. Married life was new territory, and we both knew that despite the joy of that day, new challenges awaited us. However, that night, under the veil of celebration, all worries seemed distant. We were together, and that was all that mattered. The future could wait, because at that moment, we were living our dream, full and happy. The honeymoon was a dream, one of those rare moments in life where everything seems to fall into place perfectly. João and I chose a peaceful destination, a small village by the sea, where time seemed to move slower. The days were filled with walks along the beach, candlelit dinners, and conversations that lasted well into the night. Every moment was a discovery, a deeper dive into the sea of our love. It seemed that every laugh, every look exchanged, every touch brought us even closer together, sealing unspoken promises with the simplicity of everyday gestures. "I'm so happy you're here with me," João whispered as the sun set, painting the sky with colors we only find in dreams. Returning to work after weeks immersed in that bubble of happiness was a shock, as if we were suddenly ripped from a separate world and thrown back into reality. But the memory of those days served as a beacon, guiding us through the challenges of everyday life. And then, just as routine began to settle over us like an old blanket, comfortable but a little heavy, life decided to surprise us once again. Karen discovered she was pregnant. The news came on an ordinary morning, transforming the trivial into extraordinary. I remember holding the test in my shaking hands, my heart beating so hard I could have sworn João could hear it from wherever he was. "Baby, come here," I called, my voice choked with emotion. When he walked into the bathroom and saw the positive test, his face lit up with a mix of surprise and pure joy. "We're going to be father and mother, Karen. We're going to—" He couldn't finish the sentence, and it wasn't necessary. We hugged, laughing and crying at the same time, marveling at the miracle that it was, after all, creating a new life. Those initial weeks were a whirlwind of emotions, each day bringing with it a new hope, a new dream. But as I navigated the joy of impending motherhood, something in João began to change, a shadow of worry that he tried to hide with a smile. Pregnancy, especially with twins, was a blessing I could never have imagined. I felt full, blessed to have not just one, but two little beings growing inside me. Every time I felt the kicks, my heart was filled with a love that was almost palpable, a love that overflowed and spread to every corner of our house. But as I adjusted to this new reality, I noticed that João seemed more and more distant. The smiles that were once so easy and frequent were now forced, and the conversations about our future, once full of enthusiasm and plans, had given way to a heavy silence, full of unsaid things. I tried to understand, I tried to pull him, to remind him how precious this moment was, but the answers I received were evasive. "It's okay, love. I'm just tired," he said, but his eyes told another story. A story of a young man, suddenly faced with the immensity of responsibility that fell on his shoulders. The truth is that João loved the freedom that youth provided. The nights out with friends, the carefree laughs, not having to think about tomorrow. And now, with the imminent arrival of not one, but two babies, that freedom seemed to be slipping through her fingers like fine sand. I watched, my heart sinking, as he struggled internally with his emotions, torn between the man he wanted to be and the boy he wasn't ready to leave behind. And in the midst of this silent battle, our moments of joy became increasingly rare, replaced by a growing tension, invisible but palpable. João's friends didn't help, always ready with an invitation to go out, an escape from the reality that he seemed so desperately to need. And I, even surrounded by the love of our families, felt increasingly alone, navigating the turbulent waters of pregnancy with a partner who seemed more like a ghost than the man I had married. It was a test, a real trial by fire for our marriage. While I embraced motherhood with everything I had, Joao seemed to move away, not just from me, but from the life we had dreamed of building together. As the months progressed, and the contour of my belly became more and more evident, the growing divide between Joao and me also became clear. What started as small disagreements and misunderstandings gradually turned into an emotional chasm that neither of us seemed capable of crossing. Joao, increasingly absorbed by this double life he was beginning to lead, didn't realize that each night out, each hidden message on his cell phone, were like slow but steady blows to the structure of our marriage. And I, despite feeling every blow, remained firm, in the hope that everything could be resolved for the family we were about to expand. It was one afternoon, while I was packing the baby's clothes, that I found a note in the pocket of one of Joao's jackets. A note that spoke of hidden meetings and promises made in the shadow of our lives. The pain I felt at that moment was indescribable, a mixture of betrayal and despair, of disbelief and loss. I confronted Joao that night. The air was filled with a tension that seemed palpable. The words we exchanged were filled with emotion, but also with a regret that neither of us could deny. Joao tried to justify it, talking about the pressure he felt, the difficulty in adapting to this new reality that imminent fatherhood imposed on him. But deep down we knew these were excuses, vain attempts to mask the truth we both knew. He was lost, influenced by friends who saw nothing beyond their own nights of fun, friends who didn't understand the meaning of responsibility and commitment. What should have been the height of our union, the moment to celebrate the life that was growing inside me, became a period of internal and external struggles. And while Joao flirted with the idea of another life, far from the obligations of a husband and father, I wondered how much I could endure, how much I could fight alone for both of us. At that moment, I realized that the battle I was facing was not just for the survival of our marriage, but for my own identity and value as a woman, mother, and warrior in the daily struggle that is life. The days followed, and each one seemed longer and heavier than the last. I, Karen, felt increasingly isolated, an island in an ocean of shattered expectations and crumbling dreams. Pregnancy weight wasn't just physical, it was emotional, a burden I carried alone as I watched Joao sink deeper and deeper into his questionable choices. Despite everything, I tried hard to keep my head up. I knew that my children needed me, a strong mother, a woman who, despite adversity, knew how to stand firm. And it was during this turbulent period that I discovered a strength I didn't know I had. Every day was a battle, but each battle made me more resilient, more determined to protect myself and my little ones. Joao, on the other hand, seemed increasingly distant. The painful comparisons he made between me and other women were like stabs in my heart. Karen, have you seen how Mariana takes care of herself? Why don't you try? These words, spoken without thinking, were more destructive than he could imagine. The reflection in the mirror began to become my enemy, each new weight gained, each stretch mark, a testimony to the cruel words. It was clear that Joao, influenced by his friends and nightlife, was losing himself on a path that we no longer recognized as ours. He went out more and more, came back later and later, and when he was home, it was as if he was in another world, a world where our children and I had no place. The nights were the hardest. Lying in bed, listening to the silence of the house that should have been full of love and expectation, I cried silently, fearing for the future, for the well-being of my children, for the woman I was becoming. But even in the tears, there was a flame, a little whisper that told me to keep going, to fight, not to give up on myself. It was then that I started looking for help, connecting with other mothers, with women who were facing or had faced similar situations. And in those connections, I found not only solace, but also inspiration. Stories of overcoming, of transformation, that showed me that, despite everything, there was a way forward, a light at the end of the tunnel. And as I grew stronger from these stories, as I learned to rediscover my own strength and beauty, the relationship with Joao continued to fall apart, faster and faster, until it reached the point of no return. The inevitable happened on an autumn night, when the wind carried with it the fallen leaves and an omen of renewal. Joao arrived home later than usual, his face marked by an expression I knew very well, that of someone carrying a heavy secret. This time, the secret would not remain hidden. He was ready to reveal everything. "Karen, we need to talk," began Joao, his voice shaky, different from the confident tone I once admired. He talked about the woman he had met, about how he felt rejuvenated by her side, as if suddenly all the responsibilities that had haunted him so much had disappeared. His speech was a mix of lame excuses and selfish justifications. As he spoke, I felt a mixture of pain and relief. Pain, seeing the man I loved turn into a stranger. Relief, because finally the truth was there, naked and raw, freeing me from any doubts about our future together. "I'm leaving Karen. I'll keep her," he said finally. The words fell between us like stones in the silence of the night. My children slept in the next room, oblivious to the earthquake that shook our world. After he left, the silence in the house seemed to scream, every corner echoing betrayal and abandonment. But as the tears rolled down my face, a fierce determination began to take shape within me. It wouldn't be the end of my story, but a painful and necessary beginning of something new. In the months that followed, I delved into my own journey of rediscovery. The woman Joao had left behind was just a shell of who I really was. I learned, with each challenge of raising 2 children alone, that my strength did not derive from my relationship with a man, but from my own essence, from the warrior woman I was becoming. While Joao sought happiness elsewhere, I built mine here, in the heart of our community, among people who truly valued and supported him. I was becoming a version of myself I could barely recognize, stronger, wiser, more complete. 10 years have passed since that night when Joao walked out the door, taking with him only his illusions and leaving behind a broken family. I, Karen, not only survived, I flourished. I turned every bit of pain and betrayal into a stepping stone to reach new heights. My children, now pre-teens, were a reflection of the love and dedication I showered on them, each with their own dreams and aspirations, strengthened by their mother's story of overcoming. My journey was not easy. There were sleepless nights, days of struggle, moments when I doubted whether I would be able to move forward. But with each challenge, I reminded myself that I wasn't just building a life for myself, but I was also shaping my children's future. I became a well-known figure in the community, someone others looked to for advice and inspiration, a true leader emerging from the ashes of a painful past. And then, one sunny afternoon, while organizing a community event in the park, I saw a familiar figure approaching. It was Joao, visibly older, the marks of time evident on his face. He stopped, a few steps away, looking at me as if he saw a ghost. I knew at that moment that he didn't recognize me, not the woman I had become. "Karen," he asked, uncertain. His voice carried a weight of regret that I could only imagine. I nodded, allowing myself to face the past one last time. "Yes, it's me, Joao. How are you?" My voice was firm, reflecting the strength I had cultivated over the years. He seemed lost, confused, perhaps hoping to find the helpless woman he had left behind. He then told me his story. The woman he had run away with betrayed him, leaving him for someone else. His life since then had been a series of ups and downs, and now he found himself alone, returning to where it all began, in search of redemption or perhaps a new beginning. Listening to him, I felt a mixture of compassion and distance. The Joao I once loved no longer existed, just as the Karen he abandoned didn't exist either. I offered him a smile, a gesture of forgiveness, Not for him, but for myself, to close that chapter of my life once and for all. I hope you find what you're looking for, Joao. We all deserve a second chance, don't we? With those words, I turned and went back to my event, to my life, to the people who were counting on me. John was left behind, a chapter closed in a book that still had many pages to be written.
And so, my dear viewers, we come to the end of a story that is more than a mere recounting of events. It is a testimony to the human capacity to overcome and transform. Karen showed us that even in the darkest moments, when all seems lost, there is a strength within each of us that can lead us to new beginnings and unexpected victories. But what does this story teach us? That hasty decisions and the search for momentary satisfaction can have lasting repercussions not only for those who make them, but for everyone around them. And you, are you ready to look at the choices you make and the consequences they bring? I challenge each of you to reflect. How do your actions influence your life and the lives of the people you love? Is it time to make decisions that not only seek momentary well-being, but that build a more solid and meaningful future? Don't leave until tomorrow the change you can start today. And remember, with each new day, we have the chance to rewrite our history, to be a better version of ourselves. What lessons will you take from this story into your life? And if you like this video and want to continue learning and being inspired, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We are together on this journey of growth and transformation.